Mason. A tourist on the London Underground asked me how to get to Heathrow via Barking. So what did I do?
I don't know. What did you do?
I pointed at a map and woofed.
You know what? I don't like this anymore. This is the worst one of the three I've done with this. This is the worst one.
Yep, spoiler warning. Leave a comment for Defending Against Hellbent. Also, there's these episodes on screen that we've done. Yeah, that's cool. We're on Time Flight now. Fantastic. Anything else you just want to say before we start Time Flight? Because we're on a very limited time.
Yeah, sorry about that. Nothing. Time flight. Good. I'll ask. Do you know anything about the story before we go into it, so I don't like accidentally talk about something that you don't know about?
I know the twist that the Master is Khalid.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's the big twist. That's like the one thing that all the people that like Time Flight say, "Oh, I was so surprised."
Damn.
So I know what that twist is. Unfortunately, which means that I'll have to allow the rest to be good if it is.
All right. Well, I won't say anything else about it.
Yeah, I know that Tegan leaves and then she comes back in Arc Infinity because I've seen Arc Infinity.
Okay, that's fair.
Apart from that, pretty clueless. I know that there's like turd monsters, and there's bad green screen, and there's possibly planes at Heathrow Airport. I'm not sure.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out, won't we?
Yeah, we will have to find out. Let's not waste any more time. So shall we begin Time Flight Part 1?
Yes, let's do it.
We finally gonna go back to Heathrow.
Yes. We here in Heathrow. Have you ever been to Heathrow?
I've never been outside my continent.
Hmm.
I've only been to Australia
I went to Heathrow.
and Fiji.
Oh, nice.
I've got muscles as well. And when I say muscles,
fun.
I don't mean my, like, arm muscles. I mean eating muscles. Like M-U-S-S-E-L.
You're eating. Nice. Delicious. I had a Cliff Bar before we did this.
Very vinegary. Right, so this is like... I'm getting Faceless One's vibes from this.
Absolutely, yeah. Because planes.
Was the other thing I had heard that this morning was quite quick.
Yeah. Alright, so anyways, next adventure.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Tegan was more distraught when they landed in the wrong Heathrow in the visitation.
You're right. The doctor was more upset when he lost his son a screwdriver in the visitation.
Yeah.
I feel as though I've lost a...
Oh. There was a fan edit of Time Crash on YouTube back in the day, like 2008, and it was from a channel called Reverse the Polarity, and it had that clip leading into Time Crash.
That's kind of cool. I like that. I can see that.
Seems to have done the trick.
Where are we? Oh, nice ass.
It's just relaxing, man.
Park? That's Heathrow Airport.
He got there by accident. Of course he did.
It's like the first Doctor landing in present-day London in the War Machines after he's already sent Ian and Barbara away.
Get your duty-free Evil of the Daleks DVDs early at that airport. That's why they call it Time Flight, because it's in the future.
I don't know what English cricket is coming to.
Adrix just died, man. Why are you talking about the bloody cricket? You fool.
Man, this cricket's really gone out stuff.
To check with unit department C19.
His eyes. Unit.
Do send my regards to Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart.
Well, he'll find out where he is the next season.
He's being Ian somewhere else.
I'm thinking,
We were supposed to be going to the Great Exhibition.
but we will eventually.
You were supposed to be sad, actually.
Because Adric's dead.
That's a real plane, isn't it?
Used by Victor Foxtrot was
Yeah, it's a Concorde.
And this is Nissa and Tegan. Would you mind going back?
The actresses aren't actually there because they could barely fit the camera
I've
into
noticed,
this actual Concorde.
I've noticed.
It could only fit Davis in it.
See, again, like, in that scene, he should be saying, like, this is Nissa Tiga and then pausing and then being like, oh. You
Yeah,
know?
for someone that directed the emotional weight of it so well last episode, he's not doing very good conveying it writing-wise this episode.
Like, imagine if in Heaven Sent, the Doctor just forgot that Clara died.
This-
And it's the whole episode, he's just like, how do I get out of this castle?
we feel her loss as well. Anyways,
Anyway, my deepest, darkest secrets.
hybrid.
I like how we're comparing Time Flight to Heaven Sent.
It's like that Jeremy Clarkson meme of uh-oh. Anyway,
Yeah. Bad news, everyone. Adric's dead. Oh no. Anyway.
anyway, I've been on a lot of planes over the years. Our family travels a lot.
They give me anxiety. But oh, I like this shot. Going in sideways. Does that make sense? I don't know. Oh, there we go.
Means the 11th hour makes sense. But it does mean that journey to the center of the TARDIS doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, fuck Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. We don't need that one. There needs to be more horror direction. It's a bit too sterile.
I agree.
Like, you know how the Faceless ones had that kind of chilling, like, what the hell's going on at this airport and plane sort of thing? This needs
Oh,
that.
definitely, yeah.
It needs that. I'm not sure if black and white is the answer. It's also like in Midnight, when right at the start, when he's in the cabin pit and looks out the window. It's like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It needs to be more tension.
It could have used a bit more of that, like, episode 4 cliffhanger where, like, the plane's going into the alien ship. Like, that sort of like, oh god, what's happening?
Yeah. Like, the music's definitely pulling it off, but the direction needs more horrific detail to it.
Hey, we're back at Heathrow.
Well, finally back at Heathrow. At least someone got what they wanted.
He looks so happy. Adric's dead, I'm at Heathrow.
That's why this tree doth continue to be, since observed by yours faithfully, God. What's that, Doctor? To be is to be perceived. A naive 18th century philosophy.
Okay. For a second, I was like, what? The Doctor believes in God?
Sounds good, God.
God is canon.
God is canon.
Just like how I won one of those coin flips. Oh my god, Nissa, what? Oh. Oh, I see. This is where the green screen starts.
They were decaying.
No, this is obviously just Heathrow. Come on. They're really there.
Maybe Nissa is more capable of seeing past the illusion because of what happened on Traken. Just a guess.
Yeah, yeah. And it's almost because of that, like, explanation, I can kind of forgive the green screen because it's meant to be fake.
Yeah.
Like, I know it was meant to look good, but I can kind of, I don't know, I can kind of forgive it for story's sake.
I like how we've had so many different stories at Heathrow this season, just in different time zones.
No.
It is Khalid, who is, spoilers, played by Anthony Ainley. So, this is a bit racist, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very, it is a bit racist.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. It's not good.
There's something a bit off
They seem
about
rather
these
calm.
side characters, you know what I mean? They don't seem genuinely, authentically, I don't know. They don't seem very professional.
Mm.
Like, this is really interesting. This illusion thing.
Yeah,
The whole concept of the time flight itself is great. So,
Connor, if you like time flight, I really hope you're prepared to die. And I guess me too.
there are already things about it that I'm a bit, I don't know, something off.
Yeah. Maybe Adric died the last episode and we're just running around this diner. Like, yay, we're just exploring.
Okay, so they've been hypnotized. Ah, of course, the turds. Here they are. Whoa, what's that? Why is that in my eyes? Okay, interesting. The turds teleported, and there was a big cloud of smoke, and racism.
Yeah, racism.
Oh. The turds, and they've got bubble bath, and they captured the doctor. Okay. Okay.
I love the ending to the Earth shock behind the sofa because they're like, oh, well, now Adric's dead, and then Matthew Waterhouse goes, I mean, it was a good thing, because then I didn't have to be in time flight.
Yeah, really good idea. With the whole plane disappearing it through time, and like the hypnosis and Heathrow Airport tying into it's cool, but Adric literally fucking died in the last episode, and they were like, I'm going to take you somewhere nice so you can get over it.
Adric fucking died.
And also Khalid is racist, so I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. I'm not gonna say it's a bad story yet. Not a bad story yet. But I'm getting there's bad vibes that have potential to be worse than they are. I don't know, we'll see what happens, I guess. I also think these side characters don't have enough dimension, and they should be asking more questions than they are.
I agree. Oh, trust me, some of the side characters are going to do some very interesting things later on in the story.
Like, in Earthshock, all the characters would ask the right questions that would answer things about the plot that we needed to know, rather than delivering exposition, and I thought that was done so well. Whereas in this story, it's kind of the opposite, where there's, like, so much left on the table where there's people that should be worrying about this, but instead they're just like, no, it's just a trick. It can't be real. I mean, I suppose that you can still do that, but it's just like, there's so much I want to know about what's happening. I want lots of tension. And they're also just a bit... They're also weirdly not very serious characters. It's so weird, even though they work for an airport. I think the thing with this story so far is it's not necessarily what it's doing, it's what it's missing. Oh.
Stop!
That looks like it was made in paint.
I just know.
I just know. I'm a genius and I just know.
It'll be fine. The cut to him just laughing at this.
I'm so conflicted because Anthony Ainley's performance is charming, but it's also he's wearing that.
It's also racist. Yeah.
It's weird because like stuff like Lee Sen Cheng and Ella Keir and you know
Mavic Chen,
like they're also racist, but there's I don't know. I can't pinpoint. I think it's because there's so much more like individual that it's not as bothersome for me because they feel like individual people and their race is separate. Whereas with Khalid, it's more like it's the master pretending to be that race, and I think that's a bit worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's playing a stereotype, and I think it's much more noticeable when he does that.
That's the difference. I think with the other ones, they're not necessarily playing stereotypes.
Mavic Chen,
the closest I could think of is maybe
Mavic Chen feels more like a person, and I don't really think of him as a race. You know? Even Lee Sen Cheng, how he brings up racism against the Chinese, Lee Sen Cheng as a character is very individual, despite the fact that he's Chinese. In fact, he even mocks the British for being racist towards him because it's almost like it's irrelevant to him. It's just like, well, of course I'm Chinese, but that's all you think I am, then you're stupid. Whereas this is different.
Yeah, this is just like, no, it's not good.
Because Khalid's not real.
Yeah, exactly.
This is literally just the
But
master
he didn't
wearing.
have to.
This is just the master wearing blackface in universe.
Yeah. Okay. You just kiss the TARDIS.
Oh my god. You can tell Anthony Ainley's having fun with this one.
Yeah, he always gives it his all, no matter the quality of the script.
Yeah.
No matter what character he has to do.
In Castrovelva, but he's just like, yes, of course, it's a lovely painting.
I'm not supposed to be that past my bedtime.
Oh god, Nissa always gets sick.
Sorry, Nissa's face there, she just looked sad.
Well, finally she's sad for something. Justice for Adric.
Justice for Adric, please. No, Adric is gone. We have to move on. He wouldn't want us to mourn unnecessarily.
There's wasted potential for great character drama in this story. From Adric's death to also the fact that Anthony Ainley's master is wearing the face of Tremas. And Nissa is here.
I hate that they almost never do anything with it. They vaguely bring it up in
Legopolis,
and
it does fine in Legopolis, and then there's that bit in Castrovel where she's like, I hate that face. But that's it.
I hate it.
They should have done something in this season. Probably Time Flight was the story to do it.
I really wanted to go up and also kiss the TARDIS.
Yeah, that would be great.
Must listen carefully to what I say.
Will you please sit down, sir, and fasten your seatbelt? We're about to
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, the turds are back.
Yay.
Still trying to figure out the master's plan here.
I just want to know why he dressed up to begin with. He didn't know the doctor was going to show up.
Are you responsible for the abduction of my passengers and crew?
Oh dear.
Is it authorized mass hallucination? Your questions are irrelevant.
I do.
Oh. This is a lot more awkward ever since the 80s. And certainly amplifies how racist it makes the story look.
Yeah.
Oh.
It really... This might be one of those, it's better to just read the Target novel.
Maybe. I don't know. Still, it's of course, the pilots of this plane are accusing the Arabic character of abducting their passengers. Oh, God.
I've actually never connected those dots, but now that you said that, oh god, no.
Adric.
What?
No. Adric's dead.
Oh yeah, I've heard that he's in this story. I can see he's starting to add some master-like mannerisms.
Mm-hmm. The disguise, I'm not a fan, but Anthony Ainley, he's still good at being the master.
What? Two-headed snake. Isn't it like in mythology, the Arabic people were snake charmers or something?
I really hope not. The Twisted
Oh!
Snake and the Doctor in this.
Oh my god, what is that?
You never do.
Well, at least the racism is over.
Yeah, that's
At
nice.
least we can actually have a story with the Master now. That's not
Yeah.
disguised as something that he shouldn't be.
And my dear doctor, you have been naive.
I don't really know what to say. It's kind of
Yeah, it's
weird.
very strange.
It's a very strange story. Very strange. I really like the creepy factor of the pilots and crew members and passengers being caught under a hive mind.
Uh-huh. I will say, at this point in the rewatch, this is absolutely still my least favorite of season 19.
Even if the second half of it's better, I still think it will be because the other 6 stories I really, really like. This one is very. It's very odd. I don't know. I'm not hating it yet. I do think the car lead element of it is very cringe, but the plot has a really interesting idea. And there is a creepy factor to it. The whole thing of tying into Heathrow, but then again, you think about the fact that they've had to brush off Adric's death and some of the missed opportunities, and just
it's not a good story that's made worse by the fact that it's also not a good finale.
The side characters need to be more dynamic as well. They're not interesting enough to carry their scenes, even though the plot surrounding them is interesting. The actual people that are playing the side characters, they don't have enough dimension. They're too generic, I think. Apart from maybe the guy who looks like Colonel Sanders, but they just they need more. They need a bit more meat to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings so far.
All right.
I mean, it is flying. It is flying by, but that doesn't necessarily make it a really good story. Just because it's flying by, it just means that it's watchable.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Like, I don't think it's boring, but it's not good. I love this theme song.
I do. Banger.
So good. I just love. I think I tweeted about this a while ago, but I just love the music of the early '80s so much. What is your overall opinion of Anthony Ainley?
Great actor. Yeah, I do really like his master, but not my favorite.
Okay, I can agree with that.
He's at his best at the start and the end of his run. Keeper of Traken, Legopolis, and Castrovalva, he's great. Love him in those. He's pretty good in 5 Doctors, and I really like him in Ultimate Foe, and I love him in Survival. I think he's probably at his best in Survival.
Agreed. He's fantastic in Survival.
Yeah. But I do prefer a few other masters.
Same.
Roger Delgado, Derek Jacobi, controversially, John Sim, and Jeffrey Beavers.
Okay. I've never ranked them before, so he'd probably be somewhere in the middle.
I think 5th sounds about right for me. Anthony Ainley.
Okay. Do you count Peter Pratt as a separate incarnation, or just him and Jeffrey Beavers as one?
I do count him as separate. I love Peter Pratt, but he's only in one story. So he's still in the TARDIS.
Yeah. Damn shame. We'll say Green Screen is still better than Underworld.
Well, yeah. Obviously.
I will give time like that. It's better than that. Story-wise, I'm not sure, but
Planet of the Spiders does have pretty dodgy green screen.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, you haven't? That's right.
Yeah, I've not seen the last 3 Partly stories.
Yeah,
I'm saving that for the
Forget about that.
for watching it with my mom. Yeah, I've not seen those. I've not seen Seeds of Doom, and I've not seen Warriors of the Deep, but I've seen all the other ones.
Okay, so you got 5 left.
Mm-hmm.
So many stories in this season where side characters get in the TARDIS. I'm pretty sure it's honestly the last 4 stories in a row in the Visitation. In fact, I think, actually, no, does it happen in Kinder? I can't remember. No, it doesn't, because they don't go inside, do they?
No.
And bloody Monarch wants to get in there in Fort of Doomsday. And they spend a whole half of a story in there in Castrovalva. I feel like I've missed a whole episode's worth of character building for all these airport people.
Yeah.
They're also weirdly pre-developed.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I can see that. Like I could believe like all the actors came up with like
It's almost like I'm watching
Back
a historical
stories for their
movie to
characters.
understand who the people are.
Yeah, it's like watching a historical for a figure you've never heard of before.
Yeah. For some reason, when I see these pilots, I get the vibes of when those unit people were there on the Sycorax ship in Christmas Invasion.
Yeah, I can see that.
These people are very proactive. I mean, I suppose
They are.
I suppose they do work at an airport, but like, this is a bit different from a plane. This is a time travel machine. Oh,
What is it?
what is that?
Bon voyage, gentlemen.
Bon voyage, gentlemen. Oh dear. I get the feeling Chris Chibnall may have rewatched this story before writing Spyfall. And also,
Why?
And also binged Series 3. Well, it's got a plane in it, and it also has racism in it. And it has the Master involved in the racism. Even though this time it's...
Okay.
This time it's the Doctor being racist rather than the Master. It also has tissue compression.
That is true. I do like that they brought that back. That was cool.
And a blonde Doctor. Haha.
With 3 companions.
Yes, although one of them's dead in this story, but they forgot that.
Yeah, that's true. Patrick's dead, Tegan. You have to move on.
There's too many tropes in this story, I think. Like I said, these characters are just so underdeveloped.
Yeah, there's too many of them.
There's too many of them, and we don't know anything about them other than they work for an airport.
Yeah, the issue is like before the story happened, another plane full of a whole crew came in. So you have like 30 people here, and you try to focus on like 5 of them. It's not going to be well. You're not going to be able to well develop them.
If Eirich had been in the story, oh dear.
The professor's dead. We feel his loss as well. He wouldn't want us to mourn unnecessarily.
Oh, hello there.
The Time Lord came, seeking our power.
The Master.
That makes sense. He wants the power to regenerate.
Even if the Master wanted, he couldn't give it to him. He has to take bodies now.
Yearn for shape and touch and feeling. My brother, our true destiny is the becoming of ourselves.
Such a good idea! So underdeveloped. God.
Again, maybe the Target novel. It might be better. Unless it's written by Grimway, in which case...
Maybe.
You wrote Mordred Undead after this.
I love Mordred
I like
Undead.
that. Yeah, it's really good.
The only thing that's not so good about it is the continuity problem with Unit, but apart from that, I love it.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be Ian that came back, but they couldn't get him, so they just made the Brigadier a
I
teacher.
still think it works anyway.
I think it's a little weird that he became a teacher. Like, I like the story with the Brigadier, but just that, like, that setup is a bit weird for me.
It means the Master has finally defeated me.
Of course. A whole lot of exposition. This last episode is gonna ride on a knife's edge, I think, in terms of whether or not my thoughts on this story, because I don't know, it's just so much wasted potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, it's very much like sound idea, poor execution.
Not happy about that.
Yeah, where I stand, I don't.
It's annoying because I had like a really long run of stories on this series that I've really liked, but this one is just not hitting right.
Yeah, it really sucks that season 19 had ended like this. I wish that season 19 could have ended with Earthshock, and then we just skip Tegan going and coming back, and then just start season 20 with Arc of Infinity.
The thing is you could have had time fly. You just have to do it differently.
They need more better writing and more budget, please.
I feel like a story that would have benefited if it was like a 6-parter. You'd need more development for all those airport characters. Need actual substance to all of these ideas that are thrown in, not just dumped in exposition. It's just doing. It's got all the right ideas, but it's doing it in all the wrong ways. Not all the wrong ways, but some of the wrong ways. I just, man, I'm being let down here. I mean, to be fair, it is a severely unpopular story, but I'm still let down because I usually like unpopular stories in classic Doctor Who, but this one is just becoming an issue, I think.
Yeah, like, there are so many unpopular Doctor Who stories that I genuinely really like.
Yeah.
And then there's stories like this,
The Time Monster is incredible. That was absolutely an incredible story, but this one, no.
I love that. And like Paradise Towers is one that I absolutely love. And then like the Web Planet I know is one. And then, you know, others from here and there.
Yeah, but this one is it's becoming a challenge. So.
Yeah.
But we'll soldier on.
So I will take this moment because I haven't done so yet. Matt from Universals. It's lovely to see you. I think we were on a Discord call once. You seem like a lovely person. You seem like you have a great channel, and I hope you're having a very lovely day. Thank you.
Very wholesome.
Yeah.
That's a nice bit of levity.
Perhaps you could take us to the other side of that wall. What?
So does the Master's TARDIS have a broken chameleon circuit, or does he like it looking like a Greek pillar? Does he want it to look?
Well,
like
I was going to say, wasn't it like the fireplace in Castrovalva?
Yeah, it was.
So
maybe
he changed. So he must have changed it back.
Maybe the Greek pillar is like the default setting.
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure like the TARDIS has like a memory bank of its chameleon circuits. I don't know.
I mean, I really like the set. It looks cool.
And taking everything with him.
Oh yeah, I like the set design in this. A lot of people say that they don't like the story because it seems cheap. For me, it's the writing that doesn't feel very great.
Yeah, I think the production's
Personally.
fine. Apart from
it's on par.
Apart from the blackface, but in terms of production values,
also,
it's fine. It's a bit cramped though. I think it's not very apart from these outside shots, it's a bit cramped. Weird, but it's not claustrophobic in a good way. It's not like horrific. It's just very, I don't know.
It's very set. I also want to know how the hell they landed, like, on a runway on these mountains. Because they thought they were back in Heathrow. They must have landed, like, on a runway. But they're on a mountain.
I feel like this would be so much better if it was Douglas Adams script editing.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that.
It'd have so much sparkle.
This could be a very Douglas Adams idea. Like a plane gets sent back in time.
Yeah. Some of the dialogue in this is a bit flat. It's just sort of stating the obvious.
Yeah. And the performances are not very good, I would say.
Apart from Anthony Ainley, who's doing amazing.
Devious to the last.
Oh, yeah. And I think Tegan's doing all right. She was the only one that showed emotion in the first scene where they were like, Edric's dead.
Your prospects seem rather limited.
I can still operate my TARDIS.
With such a restricted range.
I love the look that Davison gets when he's like, I've won.
And what will you give me?
The temporal limiter.
That was very Tennant there. I should say it's very Tennant being like Davison, but I think this story has gotten a little bit better in this part.
Yeah, because it feels like we're doing more things.
Yeah. As Matt of Universals would say, things are happening.
Things are happening. Davison always feels like the most trusting doctor.
Yeah, well, he's quite genuine.
He is.
Sometimes
That's why I like him. Like, he doesn't...
Sometimes to his own detriment. Like, in terms of
Yeah, like the...
people take advantage of him.
Yeah. That's why I've always liked the Fifth Doctor. He just feels like a nice person.
Yeah. But it's not...
And I don't know, for him,
the thing
that
is,
works for me.
it's not a nice person done in a way where that's just... Because sometimes you could have a nice character where it's... everyone just likes them and they end up being kind of Mary Sue-ish, whereas with the Fifth Doctor, it's kind of the opposite, where no one respects him, so he's always on the back foot.
Yeah. He almost feels like the direct opposite to, like, Tom Baker in season 18, where he just kind of didn't like anybody. But then he would do stuff, and then people are like, whoa, Doctor, that's so cool. And then you have this Doctor who's traveling with people that are like, I want to go home now, but you can't take me.
Well, the biggest comparison is between Revenge of the Cybermen and Earthshock, the way that both Doctors interact with a group of people that have been affected by Cybermen, and in the Fourth Doctor's case, they took his words for it, whereas in the Fifth, they didn't.
London with that nucleus on board? Yes. But that's disaster. Quite right.
Sabotage.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize.
Oh, here we go.
For the delay. Your flight is now ready for boarding. Would you care to proceed to your aircraft immediately?
Nice to see her actually do her job for once.
This was her character arc the whole time. She's finally a people person.
Yeah.
Tegan reminds me of my McDonald's manager who just hates people, but he still works in a position who, like, needs to talk to people. Like, why do you want this job? You're gonna have to deal with idiots all the time.
You say that's her character arc. I actually think Tegan is better in her second run.
And like the character arc thing was a joke. I didn't actually.
I know what you mean, but originally this was meant to be her final appearance, and then they decided to keep her.
I think that she was contracted when the story came.
Maybe.
In the behind the scenes, Janet Fielding knew she was coming back when she filmed this story.
Okay.
But I do prefer her when she, like, in her second and third seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Snake Dance to Resurrection for me is like her peak as a character.
Oh yeah, I love her, and especially season 21.
Oh, rabbits! I remember her being really good in Enlightenment, actually.
Oh yeah, Enlightenment's amazing. Just all around, that's a really good story.
So they're trying to fly off from that thing. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a green screen shot. So cheesy.
Well, it's Heathrow Airport. We appear to be on schedule for a change.
Finally.
Honestly.
You miss it, don't you?
I miss Adric.
It's not exactly dull.
No, it's not dull, Tegan. People die.
You wouldn't want us to mourn
Can't
unnecessarily.
They
Adric's
just
dead.
They just forgot about him.
Knocked back into time-space like a straight six into the pavilion. Where's Tegan?
I just watched that
Oh,
2
Tegan
nights
just
ago.
walks away. Does she not even say goodbye? Or maybe they come back and see her, I don't know. I was just so, like... She's just like, where's Tegan? Oh, she died too, it's all good. We'll forget about her.
She wouldn't want us to mourn unnecessarily. I will never let that line go.
She's back at Heathrow.
And the Doctor and Nyssa are off to go do hundreds of Big Finish adventures.
I'll just make a quick phone call, which should clear the whole thing up.
Totally not suspicious.
Happy landings, Doctor.
Happy landings,
Oh, she didn't even get to say goodbye.
I thought you were going with the doctor.
Yeah.
So did I.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
He just assumed that she was going back to Heathrow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear.
Most everyone who worked on the story wasn't a big fan of it, at least in terms of the main core three team. Peter Davison, for a while, just said it was it was like issue with the effects, but over time, he started to say like, yeah, okay, maybe it was the writing. And then Janet Fielding and Sarah Sutton have expressed disinterest in the story as well. It was confirmed that Tegan was going to be in season 20 when they were writing this. So why they did the exit this story and then she comes back in the next story, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not complaining because they were able to get in some good big finish retroactively, but at the time it was a bit strange. Everyone on set really liked filming it. It was just the script itself they weren't a fan of because like everyone was laughing at like the studio footage on the Blu-ray.
So time flight. Sorry, it's gotta be a below average story. I can't in good conscience say that it's good because it's not. Really good ideas.
No, it's not.
Really
It's
good
not
ideas.
story.
Brilliant ideas. But executed in the most just mundane way.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a real shame. The characters were underdeveloped, so we didn't get to know them before the plot started. The Master was disguised as Khalid for no reason other than to trick the Doctor, which how did he know the Doctor was going to be there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Khalid itself as a disguise is just... It wasn't good back then, it's even worse now, and it makes the story a bit more awkward to watch.
The Seraphin side of it, again, interesting concept, all delivered in exposition. The conclusion was very just sort of, let's fix the problem by making a deal. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah. And then, this was the episode after Adric died, and they spend, like, being, and then they do a hallucination later on, and then that's it.
Outside of the Khalid thing, that might be the thing I have the biggest beef with. They just didn't capitalize on Adric's death being a big part of the plot and character drama.
Yeah, that absolutely would have made the story better if they focused on that one.
And then, like, the production side of it, like, the sets are good, but I think the turd monsters were a bit weird.
Yeah. Yeah, they were...
This story is, like, I do think that usually when people say stories are boring, I disagree. Because I like a lot of stories that people say are boring, but I think this one is a case where it is just boring. It is a very dragged story. It's all delivered in exposition. The characters aren't developed enough for investment. It's all very plot heavy. Like, again, really good ideas, like the whole Heathrow thing, tying that into a plane going back in time, and there being, these beings that have regeneration. It makes sense why the Master would want their power. But it's just done in the most boring possible way, really. It's just done in the least dynamic, least interesting, least dramatic way possible, and that's a shame, because it's had a lot of potential, I think. A lot of potential.
Yeah, a story trying to tell, like, a story with this placement should have been a lot better. And I know that back then it was very much a problem of, well, we ran out of budget, so we can't really do anything with this one.
I think that on the whole, the Peter Davison era does get an unfair bashing for being bland, because I do think a lot of it isn't bland. I think people just don't see the stories for what they're meant to be. But I think in this case, I think Time Flight is a bland story. And I think it is one of the ones that kind of deserves the flack for being generic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say, I don't think it's, like, the worst thing in the universe, like some people say. There are some good points.
It's not.
They're
it's not abysmal.
It's not surrounding the
It's not an abysmal. It has a couple of abysmal elements, but it's not an abysmal story. I think it's just bad, like just on the brink of bad, rather than being absolutely diabolical. Like there are stories that I do think are much worse than that.
Yeah, like for you, like it would be like Invasion of Time, right? Like that's way worse than this story.
Yeah, maybe not extremely worse, but I do think Invasion of Time is worse than this one. it's still got some redeeming qualities. But I do think it is worse than Time Flight. There is a story I would... see, I guess it's not a spoiler for me to say I do think Warriors of the Deep is far worse than this. I know you haven't seen it.
That's right.
I know you haven't seen it,
I don't.
but Warriors of the Deep
I have
is...
no like hype for that story whatsoever.
I think it's fair to say that Warriors of the Deep has some ironic enjoyment that you can get out of it, which is more than this story, given some of the things that happen with the production. But I think as a story, I do think it's a lot worse on many levels, which, you know, I can't spoil
Absolutely.
for you. I'll let you decide for yourself what you think, but
You're fine. Yeah.
I really,
Yeah, all I know
really,
about-
really do think Warriors of the Deep is a fundamentally terrible story, whereas this is just it feels labored. It's very phoned in. Considering what the idea was, it doesn't feel like it reached its potential in the slightest. It could have been so much more.
If I were to put like take the criticism that everyone has for Time Flight specifically and assign it to a different story, I would almost say Underworld, because I do think that is a story where the effects actively ruin the story for me. Because I feel like again,
the thing with Underworld is that I actually did like that story because I do think the story under the effects, for me anyway, was interesting. But obviously the CSO effects on it are so bad that it becomes so distracting. Time Flight,
yeah, that's fair.
the effects aren't bad, but the story is just done in the most mundane way possible.
Yeah, I think a good story can shine past its bad effects, unless they're so bad that it distracts from everything.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that Time Flight is as low of a quality as it is, it's not just because maybe bad effects. It was because the writing wasn't there to carry up the story that, like, it's to the height where it should have been.
Yeah, it's a shame, really, because Peter Greenberg, like you said, wrote Mordred Undead, and I love that story. So clearly something clicked when writing for the next season. I don't know what it was, but it's possible he may have been short on time for this because he was directing Earthshock. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, this
it's so strange to me that he in Earthshock he's so effortlessly able to put in the emotion for Adric's death, and then in the next story which he wrote, there's none of that at all.
Yeah.
And it's such a dip, and I don't understand how that was like. I just don't understand how he did that.
I think I've put the nail on the head now. I think I know what it is. I think Time Flight to me feels like a first draft.
Yes. Actually, yes, it does feel like a first draft, I think.
That first draft, which is, you know, the first draft in its sort of at its core is very mediocre because it's a first draft, and then that first draft is damaged by things that happen in the story on top of that, like Khalid and Adric.
Mm-hmm. You know what? You know how I would do Time Flight if I were to write it? So there have been stories in the past where the Doctor has lost someone and he doesn't react the same way a normal human would. I would love it if the story was the reason Tegan leaves is because she can't deal with the fact that he so flippantly just goes past Adric's death.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the reason he leaves.
So much on the table. Then you also factor in Nissa and how Treemass's face is on the Master's body.
Yeah.
And how he carelessly just wore Khalid's face, even though I would prefer ultimately for Khalid not to be a thing. But even if we have to have it, it's just like you could have Nissa say you just wear faces like you know, like they're masks, but they're actually real people. Like imagine if Khalid was a real person that existed, and let's say the mask looked more realistic, and Khalid was an actual Arabic person that the Master stole the face of. You could have had Nissa confronting him about how, you know, the Master just takes people's lives and faces as if they're nothing for his own advantage. And, you know, you're going to have a bit of a breakdown about the fact that he's wearing her father's face and then wearing another person's face on top of it as if it's just, you know, a play. I think that could have made some really interesting drama. But Nissa in this story was just an exposition machine and did absolutely nothing. It's a real shame.
And Nissa in this story feels like she, like, there are some people that say she's like this in every story, which is not true.
No, it's not.
But she just felt like she was impassive to everything. It just felt like she was watching. Like it felt like she was just there.
She's a lot better in the next story, in Arc Infinity.
Yeah, she's a lot better in nearly every story that she's in. I would say.
In, Black Orchid with her twin, and then she's also quite good in the Visitation because she gets some time with the Doctor there. And
yeah,
I
would say
I like her in Legopolis, the way that her father, you know, she thinks that the Master is her father, and obviously Big Finish is where she really shines, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
In this, she was just an exposition machine. It's a really wasted potential. And I think, like, again, Peter Davison and Anthony Ainley were, you know, they're really good actors. But I just think the story itself wasn't enough for them to chew on.
Absolutely. And yeah, there were so many, I feel, easy ways to make the story more emotionally compelling. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't do any of it because, you know, like you said, there was stuff with like the Master's face. There's Adric. There's like the fact that like this, like we're finally back at Heathrow, and you know these people have been taken from their time, and like, oh yeah, that's another thing. The side characters, they just went along with it.
Yeah.
And that one guy just flew the TARDIS, I guess. Yeah, no. So he just like was like, you know what? I'm a pirate. I'm gonna try.
The biggest problem is the side characters become a big focus of the story, but they're not developed. So we're just watching people we don't know do things, and that makes me. It's when I'm watching it, I feel very left out, if you know what I mean, because I don't really know who these people are, and so when I see them doing things, I'm like, well. Okay, but I really wish I cared who you were, because if I did, then I might actually be invested in what you're doing. And that's, I think, one of the biggest issues is there's a lot of action, but there's not enough substance, not enough meat, not enough development, not enough personality. And it's a real shame.
It's just not enough.
I really wish we'd gotten to know who these pilots were before we went into this plot.
Yeah, it would have been great if, like, I don't know, at some point in Legopolis, we, like, see that, like, these are people that, like, Tegan has known or whatever.
Yeah.
So they come back, and it's like, oh, Tegan's home, and which would give another okay reason as to why she stays in this story. Mm-hmm. If you add that, like, element of, like, these are people that Tegan works with, but that's just not a thing that happens. And I don't mean to get too into, like, how I would do it and getting upset that it wasn't done how I would do it, but, like, I'm just saying, like, I think that would have been a better way to drive the emotion of the story.
I think,
in my opinion.
Again, like I said, it's possible that 6 parts may have been good to give room to breathe, to develop all these different things happening with the pilots, with Heathrow. You know, spend some time at Heathrow before you go to the other place. Like, pretend that Tegan feels like she's at home, you know? Have her meet those pilots, have her, you know, about to go and do her job again, have the Doctor and Nissa be like, well, we'd like to watch you do your job, it would be very interesting, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And have, you know, develop, you know, the Master's plan, develop, like, why he's doing what he's doing, develop the Zerafin side of it and who they are and where they're from and what they're doing, and actually build up some tension, which is something that the previous story did so well. Earthshock did a brilliant job at developing all the tension around everything happening, but this just didn't, and it's frustrating.
It's so rough. It is really frustrating.
Yeah.
It simultaneously feels padded, but also like it wasn't developed enough. And it's just rough. And I hate that, like, I love being the contrarian that gets to say I like the story that you don't like, but I don't like the story.
Yeah, and it's genuinely undercooked. It's genuinely undercooked. The plot is just so tensionless, so mediocre.
Yeah, it just kind of happens, and then you're like, okay. It really feels like they hit the peak of their quality, and they just thought, well, maybe we can do one more, and then it just didn't work because all the energy from the last stories were just not there.
Yeah.
Time Flight.
It's really unfortunate.
Yeah. It not good.
Yeah, this is often hated and considered one of the worst Classic Who stories. In fact, in the 2014 DWM, it was in the bottom 5. The only ones that came below it were Time Lash, Time in the Rani, Fear Her, and the Twin Dilemma. I'm not sure if I would put it that low overall, but I do think in terms of Classic Who, at the moment, it's in my bottom 3 of Classic Who that I've seen, to be honest. The only ones that it's below it at the moment for me are Invasion of Time and Where's the Deep. That I've seen, I will say, because I still have to watch some more. But, so in terms of Classic Who, I think at the moment I would rank it very low. But in terms of Doctor Who as a whole, for me, there's a lot of stuff from the 2010s that I would put below Time Flight. But I think that may just be down to my taste in terms of what detracts from stories for me, because there's a lot of stuff that I would put below it that are more liked than Time Flight. But I don't think that in terms of where I would say it ranks in terms of its quality, I don't think that at this stage, having just watched it, that I would put it like bottom of the barrel. I think it's just a very mediocre, below average, sort of standard bad story, as opposed to an absolutely abysmal.
Which I guess, like, to those who consider the Davison era sort of bland and mediocre, that would, like, that would by association make Time Flight like absolutely abysmal for those people.
It's bland by bland standards for them. Whereas for me, Davison era I do like. It's just this one doesn't hit.
Exactly the same. I love the Davison era. Like, there's like I think 2 or 3 episodes that I'm not a fan of, but other than that, I love the era.
Yeah, I'll have to see what I think of Arc Infinity when I rewatch it. I had mixed feelings on that one as well, but I think I did prefer it slightly over this at the very least. Maybe when I rewatch it, I'll like it a bit more. But I do.
Oh yeah, I think Arc Infinity is much better than this.
Yeah, as I said, I don't like Where's the Deep, but most of the Davison era I'm on board for.
If I were to like.
There's still quite a few I have to watch, though. There's still quite a few I have to get through. It's the era with the most gaps in it that I have to fill. So we'll see.
Yeah. For me, the episodes that I like I would put around this level for me are probably Terminus, I would say.
I've seen that one.
I really don't like Terminus. And then The Awakening.
Haven't seen that one either.
And then I would say King's Demons is like...
Again,
I would almost say I don't
seen that one either.
Yes. Well, maybe you'll like them because you seem to like stories that I don't like.
I like stories that a lot of people don't like. I like the space pirates, so there you go. That's my big hot take. And I like Underworld.
That's sad. You know what? You and I should do a group watching of the space pirates, and you have to try to convince me why it's good. Because I'll take it if you can convince me. Great, like that's awesome.
It's not a perfect story, but it has a lot of the things that I really like about Robert Holmes' stories in it. So, you know, it is there.
Yeah.
But Time Flight, I can't do that. This one, I can't reach high enough to put it at that good level. It's just a letdown. It was written by Peter Grimwade, who directed the last story. He also directed Full Circle, Legopolis, and Kinder. So he's an amazing director. Incredible director.
Oh, absolutely. I love those other stories.
He also wrote Mordred Undead, which I love, and he wrote Planet of Fire, which I haven't seen yet.
I really like Planet of Fire.
But I thought in terms of writing for this story, I think he did a really lazy job. I thought he had great ideas, but he didn't execute them in a way that was interesting enough. I think it felt very phoned in to me, sadly. Felt like a first draft.
Yeah, he definitely learned from this, I would say.
I find it funny how Peter Davison says that Terence Dudley was being lazy with Black Orchid. I'm like, no, he wasn't. You should be blaming Peter Grimwade for being lazy with this one.
Yeah.
It was directed by Ron Jones, who also did Black Orchid, Arc of Infinity, Frontios, Vengeance on Varos, and Mind Warp. I do think that this is his weakest in terms of direction, but I don't think it's terrible. I think I
accidentally said that it was John Black who directed this. He directed Fort of Doomsday. Sorry about that.
I think his direction for his other stories are much better.
I agree. Especially Frontios. I love Frontios.
I think the location shooting on Black Orchid's really good too.
Yeah, I really like Black Orchid. I don't get why like Davison and everyone else doesn't like it.
Joey likes Black Orchid.
That's true. Joey likes Black Orchid.
Yeah. Vengeance on Varos and
Although I
Mindwarp,
think I think he says that it's his favorite of season 19, which I can't agree with.
Oh no. No. I mean, it's probably my second least favorite, but that doesn't mean that I don't like it. I still really like it. I just like other stories a bit more. He also directed Vengeance on Varos and Mind Warp, which I think he did a really good job. He, unlike Time Flight, he actually captured an atmosphere and made it really creepy in those stories. But I think part of it has to do with the fact that the Colin Baker era has a very nasty, grotesque vibe to it, which helps with the, I think the entertainment value of it. It's very unsettling. Whereas in Time Flight, everything was a bit flat.
Yeah. And even in Mind Warp, he's able to handle the emotions of that companion exit really well.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Granted, that's also the writing giving to it, but he's able to handle that emotion really well.
Philip Martin was great in both the stories he wrote on TV.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Not as hot on Creed or the Cromman, to be honest, but his TV stories I love.
I don't know if you've heard Mission to Magnus, but I wasn't too keen on that one myself.
No.
And then I haven't heard Antidote to Oblivion, which was a later main range story he wrote.
One positive I can say is the music by Roger Lim. I don't think it's his best score by any close shot, but I think he did a good job here. The other ones that he did were The Keeper of Traken, Fort of Doomsday, Black Orchid, Arc of Infinity, Terminus, The Caves of Androzani, and Revelation of the Daleks. I think his work on some of his other stories is much better. I think his work on Keeper of Traken, Fort of Doomsday, Caves of Androzani especially, and Revelation of the Daleks are great. I love the last two that he did.
Yes.
I think the tone of season 21 and 22 fits him maybe a bit more than the earlier 80s. Because when I think of the earlier 80s, I think of like Paddy Kingsland and Peter Howell, whereas I think the season 21 and 22 vibe fits Roger Lim much more. And then once you get after that, you get
I will say, I do really like Paddy Kingsland.
Paddy Kingsland's amazing. Paddy Kingsland is
incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Paddy is one of my most underrated Doctor Who production people that I just feel like people don't talk about enough.
The score for Legopolis is one of my favorites in the whole show.
Oh yeah, the Fourth Doctor's regeneration music is personally my favorite music that has gone on in the background of a regeneration.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. It's one of mine, sure.
Mm-hmm. And I do like the one for 10, 11, 12, 9, but I think the Fourth Doctor's regeneration is my personal favorite regeneration music.
The really strange, haunting music that plays in the War Games at the end.
That is, yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
It's like Time Lord ambience that just continually gets more and more oppressive as it goes on, and it's great.
How could we forget Caves of Androzani? Obviously, the Roger Lim score for his.
Oh yes, that was amazing.
Yeah, that one's amazing.
So good.
I also have.
Yeah.
I also have. A guilty pleasure for the one that plays in Time of the Rani, even though it's not good. I just really like how it's leave the girl. It's the man I want.
Boom boom boom
boom boom
boom boom.
And I also really like the not just the music, but the whole cinematography and the vocals that play during the TV movie when the Seventh Doctor's regenerating.
Oh yeah, I really like them.
Yeah.
I just like all the sound for me. I like every sound design of every regeneration.
Yeah, they seem to
myself.
They seem to just knock it out of the park, don't they? So Heathrow Airport technically is product placement for Concorde aircraft in this story. It's one of the only evidence of product placement in the whole of Doctor Who.
Huh. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
He's Anthony Ainley is credited as Leon Nee Tai, which is an anagram for Tony Ainley.
That's funny. There was a commentary for, I think, it was either Keeper of Traken or Legopolis, where he came up with an anagram for John Nathan Turner. I forget what it was, but it was really funny.
Oh, when the TARDIS first lands at the terminal building, a woman announces that Air Australia apologizes for the delay in one of its flights, and at the end of the story they say it's ready for boarding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Air Australia. That makes sense because of Tegan.
That's actually kind of cool. I like that. That's so that's so ridiculously subtle, but I appreciate that they did that.
Peter Davison considers this to be the worst story of his tenure. He says it's a very good story, but he ran out of money we filmed in the landscape. I don't think it's because of the money. I think it's because of the script, to be honest. I don't think it's because the turds look like...
And I think as time has gone on, he has said it's also the writing.
Eirich Saywood wanted to kill off the master in this story because the character had outlived his welcome. Wow. That would have been a very weird one to do. And also, it would have never worked because they would have brought them back anyway. They're always trying to kill off the
They're
master.
from Castrovalvo. That didn't do anything.
Apparently it was very cold on location, which drove Janet Fielding to tears.
Oh, that's sad.
Eirich Saywood felt the script could have worked with a more dynamic director. I just think the script needed to be more dynamic, to be honest.
Yeah. The script had a dynamic director, but the issue was he was writing the story.
Yeah. Alright, God. Conclusion and rating out of 10 for Time Flight.
It's the end of season 19. You've already had your big emotional climax with Earthshock, and this would be where you would put like the falling action and then like I guess the sort of resolution after everything that's happened. Unfortunately, Time Flight does all of that. It tries to do all of that in the first 5 minutes of the story. It really doesn't do anything with the emotions. I think over the course of the reaction, we pointed out points where you could have inserted like mentions of Azure, like whenever they're on the plane, it was like, oh, this is Nissa Tegan, and well, anyways, but yeah, like they just didn't do anything with that. And then putting all that aside, the story itself just doesn't really work because I think you have a good like setup, you have a good like inciting moment, which is like a plane has gone through like this weird time portal and like where did it go? That's a good setup. I like that. The issue is once you go through the time portal, the like explanation and the details given and like the reasons for everything, it's A, not very satisfying, and B, a bit too incoherent because you don't learn a lot, and then like in 5 minutes you get a crap ton of exposition about like this alien like species, and it's not balanced, and it needed to be more balanced for parts 2 and 3 especially to feel not as boring, because I feel like because it took so long and I think it was because of that imbalance, parts 2 and 3 were boring. I do think part 4 it picks up a bit, but that's mainly because it feels like we're going somewhere, and we do go places, and I think that part 4 is a little bit better, but it's still not a great conclusion. But you know, what is like what I can't talk. Sorry. What can you do at this point? You know, the story didn't really. It's not like you can call it a dissatisfying conclusion because there wasn't a satisfying enough thing to be concluded. And lastly, I don't understand why they took Tegan out of the story when they brought her back the next story, because she was contracted for season 20 at the time. I don't know why they didn't just keep her, but whatever. Overall, I don't know. I think I'd give it like a 3 or a 4, like a 3.5, I guess, for me.
Alright, yeah, Time Flight was a letdown. It's really good ideas, the whole Heathrow Airport thing going into prehistoric past, Seraphins, everything. Could have been great. Anthony Ainley and Peter Davison I do like in this story. Don't like Khalid. That the mask thing is problematic. But the actual performance from Anthony Ainley as the Master is really good. And Peter Davison does try in some scenes. There's way too much exposition, not enough character drama. The Adric fallout was disappointing. And a lot of it was very flat and doesn't connect right. The characters were underdeveloped. I don't think it's a terrible story, but I do think it misses the mark, and I can't include it in my non-duds because it just such a fundamental misfire that I have to give it a negative score. Even though there are some bits that I like, and it's not terrible, but I just really disappointed. Wish it was better. But Time Flight is a bad story, and I'm gonna give it a 4. And
Damn shame.
yeah, so we've hit the second dud in my marathon, sadly.
That means Classic was just really good overall.
Yeah, I mean,
But
people predicted it would be this one, and they were right.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing we have to do, and that is to defend an episode against Hellbent in quite a short time. This time, we are going to be doing Planet of the Dead.
Yes.
Which is, some people really hate, other people I think it's underrated. I haven't watched it in a few years, but I do remember liking it the last time I watched it. I don't think it's I don't think it's that good, but I do think I would say it's good, at least. I like parts of it. I think the main beef people have with it is that it's kind of a bit bog standard, because you have the problem with it is that once they get to the location where they are in the desert planet, it's just a bunch of flies in boiler suits, and they're just sort of there. And then the only thing about it that I really like is that it ties in Christina's burglary part of her character to it. So like she at the start steals that crown, and then they have to use that as part of the conclusion to fly the bus back. So it is relatively bog standard. I don't think that makes it bad. I do enjoy parts of it. I really like the scene with it they first crash into the desert planet, and then they have to sort out what they're going to do on the bus. And it's like a little it's almost like a follow-up to Midnight, because on the Midnight bus he couldn't sort out everyone, and he learnt from that experience. And so I like the way that the Doctor deals with that situation better as a result. The unit involvement's interesting. I really like the Malcolm character. The telepathic psychic lady maybe could have been handled a bit better, but I don't think it's as bad as some people say it is. I do like the foreshadowing for Fort Knox. But yeah, I think Planet of the Dead gets a bad rap. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as Hellbent. I think it's just maybe could have been... I think if the villain was better, it would be less disliked. It's my take on it. But I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as that. The only thing they have in common is they both have a desert.
and they both have an Oscar-winning person attached to it.
True. But I can't really speak specifically on it. I don't have much to say. I just think it's better than Hellbent, because I don't think there's anything outright terrible about it, really. What would you say?
Well, I watched Planet of the Dead about 4 hours ago in preparation for this, so it's very fresh in my head. One thing I'll say is I think I'm the same with you. I don't think it's a great story. I definitely wouldn't call it one of my favorites. I think that it's a bit... I don't know if I'd call it bog standard, but it just feels a bit underdeveloped, especially with, I would say, the character of Christina. That's the big negative for me for the story. I can't get into her character, and I can't necessarily... I just can't believe that she's a real person for me. She just feels like someone to counter the Doctor and like mirror him in certain ways, and sure, I think that there are better written characters that have done that. I just think that she was put there specifically to fill that role, and they didn't really develop her character outside of that, because I just don't really like how she's just very quickly like, all right, well, I'm in charge now. Like, you're on an alien planet. I feel like you should be terrified. Granted, this is a world that's had like aliens come by every Christmas, but still. But I will say, one thing I love about the RTD era is the side characters. They always give good memory, like the writing, especially from RTD, always gives like each character a personality.
Absolutely.
And the way that they like express the characters in this story specifically, it doesn't feel like exposition, because what the Doctor is doing is he is trying to ground everyone from not freaking out. So he's like, okay, no, don't. It's like, hey, where were you going? Why were you doing that? Okay, awesome, cool. You're gonna still do that. It doesn't feel like exposition, because it feels like something that the Doctor would do in this situation. And like, I remember everyone in the story. I do think that the psychic lady, I think that the psychicness is a bit silly. Like every time something happened, it would just cut to her like saying what was going on, like they're running away from like the bugs, and then it just cuts to her going running. The woman just felt like a bit silly with the way she did the psychic things, and yeah, it flies in boiler suits. It's not very exciting. Apparently, it was supposed to be the Chelonians, which is which is actually where the whole bus and space thing came. It came from this book, which a lot of people say is a ripoff, but it was just one element.
Oh,
the stories aren't
I just
similar at all.
remembered one thing.
And
my favorite line from the whole story
yes,
is when, and this is actually funny because it kind of ties a bit into Time Flight, because there's a scene at the end of Time Flight that's like this, where he says, "I'll just go in that police box and arrest myself."
that's great.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's so funny.
And I guess the last quick thing I'll say is that I like the character of what's his name? The scientific advisor guy. Malcolm, that's it.
Yeah.
I love it because I love that it feels like the natural like sequel to like a unit story. Like, it doesn't necessarily feel like a unit story, I would say, but it feels like a realistic like, okay, if Doctor Who hadn't been canceled, this is absolutely like the type of way that they would reference unit. Like, you would have a new scientific advisor that would like be fanboying over the Doctor.
Yeah, well, you think about
and
it,
I think that they have a great.
This is technically the last unit story before the Power of Three, right?
Is it? I think so. Yeah, it is, I think. But yeah, and I think even though I would say Hellbent has better production value in terms of like effects, I think Planet of the Dead has more striking imagery.
Yeah.
Like this broken bus on a desert, I think is really memorable.
The bus is amazing.
Yeah. And I just think like the story makes you feel good.
Yeah,
towards the end, just like,
I know
hey,
it's
this family got
like a very sort of subjective feeling sort of thing, but it's just a fun story. Whereas, you know, and that's something I can say about it.
Yeah, it's just a fun story, I think.
And I've always like, I don't know why the sort of like cat burglary thing I've always liked, and I do have a very personal soft spot for the story because back when it aired, I didn't have like recording yet on my TV, and so I had to get my great-granddad to record it on a VHS, and it's like the last ever VHS I ever watched. Was the recording of Planet of the Dead.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And there's like little things that I remember that are iconic, like when the Doctor walks on the bus, and like how Lady Christina doesn't have a lobster card, she has an oyster card, and she has to sell her diamond earrings to get on the bus so she can get away from the police. You got like the Doctor, and like you can see his Converse walk on the bus, a bit of product placement. There we go, a bit like Time Flight. And then he uses a psychic paper as a lobster card, and then he sits down with that Easter egg, and it's such a memorable opening.
Yeah, but yeah, like I don't think it's a masterpiece, but like doesn't like Hellbent actively makes me upset because of choices it does with its characters, and Planet of the Dead, it's just like, characters could be developed more, but like I'm not angry about it.
I believe it's also the only one that Russell T Davies wasn't on set for because of Dubai.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, you can definitely tell his input isn't as strong as it is on other stories because he's not there.
Yeah, even with like whenever you cut to unit like at the tunnel.
But yeah, I think Planet of the Dead's a fine story. I enjoy it. I don't see why people hate it. I think that's an overreaction.
Yeah, I think that's an overreaction, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's a fine special. I do think that it gets overshadowed by the fact that the next episode after that is like one of the best of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that may have something to do with it. But yeah, and I think Planet Dead's all good. Good story.
Yeah, it's fun, you know. It's just a bit of fluff, I would say.
Yeah, and much better than Hellbent. I do think though, it's like if Lady Christina is flying that bus around the universe, like how is she breathing?
Big Finish gave her a spin-off. I don't know why. I've not heard it.
They gave Jenny a spin-off as well. See, that end of Planet of the Dead with her flying the bus is very similar to the end of The Doctor's Daughter, isn't it? Where she's just flying away doing her own adventure.
Yeah, actually, it really is.
Yeah, I don't like the ending of The Doctor's Daughter. I wish she'd stayed dead.
Oh.
Because it
Yeah,
was such an impact for the Doctor to have yet another avenue into having a family, which is a big part of the 10th Doctor's character. And I like the fact that her dying caused him to be so distraught about it, but then at the very end she just gets brought back to life and she's actually not dead, and it's a misunderstanding. And I know that's Moffat's idea. Apparently he suggested that, but I don't like that idea. I wish she stayed dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Misunderstandings can be annoying, I think. I have a little beef with Moffat about misunderstandings because it undercuts some of the drama for me. But that's a story for another video. Time Flight. That was Time Flight, and it was disappointing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I had you on anyway. Glad that we got through it.
Yeah.
Like, it's annoying because I was like, this is going to be the video where me and Mason like really stand the 5th Doctor and talk about why he's so good, but it was Time Flight.
Yeah, it's sad.
The rest of season 19 is great though.
Yes, absolutely.
Next time, I'm going to be doing Terminus with Brian. So
Fun. I wish you luck with that.
I know that Nissa has an accent in that. I know it's the middle of the Black Guardian trilogy, and I know that a lot of people say it's like a lot of people call it Terminal Boredom as a nickname.
Yeah, I can see that.
No idea what to expect, to be honest. I know it's written by Stephen Gallagher though, and he did Warrior's Gate, and I love Warrior's Gate. Warrior's Gate's one of my favorite Tom Baker stories, so who knows?
Yeah.
I could like it. If it's anything like Warrior's Gate, I could really like it, but we'll see.
Wish you luck on that.
Thanks for coming on, Mason, even if it was for Time Flight.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll see you all next time.